Hey, it's Trent with Racket Stringing. Today I'm going to be stringing a racket on the Babolat Star 5 and talking about some of its features. The Star 5 is an excellent constant pull electronic stringing machine. You can see the base system here. You can see how the machine mounts onto the post. You can see the turntable, the tool tray, the tension pulling mechanism, and the digital interface. The power button is here underneath of the machine, and when you turn it on, it has a very quick boot up and welcome screen. The tension is easily adjusted by just using the plus and minus keys. In pounds, it will adjust by half a pound at a time. You can also press this center button, the shift key, which will open up the menu. You can lock the things in. Here's where you can change from pounds to kilograms. This is where you can adjust the tension. I believe you can add up to, well, let's just see. I believe it can go up to 11 pounds, yeah. And it can go down as well. This is where you can adjust pre-stretch. So 5, 10, 15, 20. Here's where you can adjust the language, information about the machine, 1,025 rackets strung on this machine. This is how many pulls have been done on the tension head, how much time the machine has been on, serial information, and then multiple other things. When you want to get back to the main screen, you just press and hold down the shift key, and here you are. The tool tray is not particularly large, but it's sufficient in order to hold the primary tools that I use when I'm stringing. The Diablo here is quite nice and makes for a nice consistent pull on the string and minimizes stress on the string. As you can see, the mounting system is what we would traditionally call a 6-point mounting system, although Babolat refers to this as a 10-point mounting system. And the reason they call it a 10-point mounting system, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but then they would add that the machine is actually these V-shaped arms are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll show a racket mounted here in just a few minutes, but you put the racket in, you can adjust these billets with the big knobs. They're very easy to adjust. The mounting arms come in as we turn the inside knob. And once the racket is in place, it's very secure. The base clamps slide very nicely on this surface, and the only maintenance this really needs is just occasional cleaning with alcohol, just regular rubbing alcohol. The clamps are really one of the greatest features of the Babolat Star 5. You can adjust the tightness of the clamps by turning these knobs. Very simple. The clamp locks as you would expect, just in that way. There is a coating on the clamp teeth that enable the clamps to grab the string very nicely, and Babolat recommends you clean those with a wire brush. The base clamps actually lock just with a slight turn of the black knob here. It's an ergonomic design, and it does work very well. It takes a little bit of getting used to if you're used to a standard lockout type of clamp, but once you do get used to it, it's actually quite fast and quite easy. In another video, I show how the rings underneath can wear out and how those can be replaced. But that's not something that needs to be done with any frequency. There is a knob here that you can turn to lock the turntable. It is moderately effective, I would say, and is one of the weaker points of the Babolat Star 5. So with that by way of introduction, let's string a racket. I'm going to be stringing a Wilson Ultra. It's an unusual string pattern, 16 by 15, and this player wants his racket strung at 40 pounds, so just adjust the tension head there. Next, I'm going to mount the racket. It's a something of an oversized frame. Just spin the knob to bring those billets in. And then turn the inside knobs to bring in the outer arms. You want to leave just a little bit of wiggle room in the racket to keep it, give the racket room to move, but not so much that it gets deformed. But stringing with Hyper G 16 gauge today. If the clamps aren't quite the right tightness, you just turn the knob to adjust, lock it in place. The machine operates very quietly. There is a beep function if you want that the tension head will let you know that it's completed its pull, but I find it to be somewhat annoying, so I've turned it off. The machine will show you on the display what it's currently pulling at any given moment, so it's constantly making adjustments to keep that constant pull steady. The Star 5 is an absolutely fantastic stringing machine. I've been using this machine for, I'm not even sure how long now, but it is my favorite stringing machine. It's a workhorse, it's fast, its quality requires very little maintenance, and the maintenance it does require is simple. Calibration of the machine is not extremely simple, but it's also not the most complicated. And the machine is of such a quality that unless you're moving it around a lot, you really don't need to calibrate it all that frequently. You can check it frequently, but I found it doesn't actually need adjusting all that often. Around every 50 rackets or so, a warning, or not a warning, but a message will come up on the display that says you need to clean the clamps, clean the clamp posts, and it's a good reminder just to make sure you're doing constant maintenance and upkeep, and then you can just turn off the feature whenever you've done the maintenance. I love how smooth this machine pulls, how quiet. The Diablo nose cone I find helpful. I use it most of the time. I certainly like it better than the Ergo 1 guide, which isn't even a Diablo, it's just a string guide. But I like the Diablo. Especially if you're doing more sensitive strings like natural gut, some multi-filaments. The entire Babolat Star 5 unit is about 120 pounds. So it's quite heavy, but it does break down in two main pieces, and the top of the machine can be operated on a tabletop without using the stand, and that reduces the weight of transporting it pretty significantly. However, if you are lifting the entire top of the unit, I recommend having two people. It is quite heavy and a bit of an awkward shape to lift. Now, when you're pulling the knot tension on the Star 5, you do the last pull, and after you pull, you press the shift key, and it does the additional knot tension. On the Ergo 1, you have to press the knot button before you pull. On the Star 5, you push the knot button after the pull, and I prefer that myself. I'm less likely to forget. I like to start by pre-weaving the first 3 crosses. Find it requires less pulling of extra string. The clamp teeth on the Star 5 clamps are significantly bigger than, say, those on the Technifibre Ergo 1. And because of that, is a little bit more difficult to get in really tight against the grommets on some crosses. How much of a difference that makes is perhaps somewhat debatable. But despite the size of the clamp teeth, it actually is quite maneuverable, and you can get in pretty tightly into between most crosses. More than one would expect just by looking at the size of the teeth. I find the arm mounts on the Star 5 to be very much not obstructive when it comes to stringing. Lots of room to work around them, and that's a very nice feature of the Star 5. Again, the clamps, very maneuverable on the surface and easy to swing around and adjust wherever you need them to be to make weaving the crosses as simple as possible. I mentioned earlier when we were walking through the screen display that this racket has just over 1,000 rackets. I can't remember what the number is now, but that makes this machine a baby. These Star 5s are known to pretty routinely string 10,000 rackets before you have any kind of major issues. So they are true workhorses, and certainly more than pay for themselves. Additionally, I'll say that the customer service that I've received from Babolat when I needed it with regard to replacing the brake unit, the customer service was excellent. And that makes a big difference when you're making a purchase like buying a new stringing machine. You want to know that the people are going to be there for you, help you out if you need it. Something to be aware of whenever you're tightening the clamp bases is that people have a tendency to over tighten them when they first start using the machine, because they are a very different kind of clamp base than most of us are used to. And you don't want to over tighten those clamp bases. And you also don't want to leave them locked after you're done stringing. They can be very difficult to unlock later. So it really does just require a slight turn to lock in that base. And that's also adjustable by removing these caps, and you can find instructions for how to do that from Babolat. And the adjustment essentially determines how far you have to turn that knob in order to lock down the clamp. All right, so then we release the outer arms by turning we release the billets by turning the outer knobs. Then release the outer arms by turning the inner knobs. Racket comes out very easily, and very happy with this machine. Babolat Star 5. Thanks for watching.